Good evening and welcome to the Site Talk Shop. I'm Aeson Knight, and with tonight is Jonathan. How are you, Jonathan?
Pretty good, pretty good. Thanks for having me on the show, man.
Not a problem. Won't you share with our listeners a little bit about your background? Because you've got an interesting one.
Yeah. So I'm Jonathan Schroyer. I'm the Chief CX Officer and the MD of Gaming at Arise. I've been in kind of customer experience in gaming for most of my career, but I've taken kind of different strolls. I started off in big enterprise, with Microsofts of the world, the Autodesk Semantics, and then I decided, hey, I think maybe startup life is the way to go. So I tried it with this startup Postmates. You might have heard that before they were procured by Uber.
Right.
That was an amazing kind of PhD right there. Amazing
Oh,
growth.
that. Because that was like our first delivery. Like that replaced
Yeah,
so many people
that's right.
for the home office workers of going, oh, I want Starbucks, but I can't leave because I'm a 12.
That's right. I
Yeah.
remember I was so when I was at Postmates, I did the delivery, so I understood the experience. And I
Mhm.
remember somebody needed a froyo, but they didn't want to go down the elevator, go across the street to get their froyo. So they
Mhm.
ordered a $12 froyo, and it cost them $22. And I just took it across the street and up the elevator. So
Right.
it's like the optimum convenience there. But I got in love with the startup life, so I started two companies. Sold
Mhm.
both companies. The most recent one was Officium Labs. It was a gaming services company. We sold
Uh-huh.
to Arise, and that's what I'm doing now. I run the Arise gaming vertical for all
Uh-huh.
the gaming services that we do for our clients and so forth. And then I own the Chief CX Officer brand because I'm a big believer in kind of the end-to-end experience
Right.
that companies provide to their players, to their customers. And I've also dabbled a little bit, in a little bit of the meta world, the 3D virtual gaming, virtual meeting, and then I love remote work. I just kind of love helping people find new and cool things to do and enjoy life, man.
And in my opinion, changing the game because okay, example that $22 froyo took you how many minutes?
Yeah, I mean, I it took me like a little 25 minutes maybe. I had to
Okay.
because the place was like a few minutes from my house, so I just rode my bike there, picked it up, took it across the street, and then
Hmm.
I went for another delivery.
Right.
It's super convenient, like in the bigger cities,
Hmm.
and still an opportunity in smaller like cities across the states or the globe, but
Yep.
huge opportunity in big cities.
Right. Now, so that let's say 22 minutes. It took you about 25 minutes.
Yeah.
That person is making $2.36 a minute.
Well, I think
That's
probably
the value over there.
the platform is the person makes a little bit less, but
Yeah.
I mean, it opened up like a whole new way of thinking. So what people
Right.
don't realize is that people have been doing freelance working, since the '60s, the
Right.
'70s, right? And even in the pre-COVID, we still had 51% of the people doing freelance that wasn't what
Right.
people call gig economy, but
Right.
what people call the gig economy really opened up everyone's eyes to this new flexible work style where the worker can have an amazing flexible lifestyle, get a lot of benefit from that, and the
Mhm.
company gets value from the worker's output. And I think
Right.
it's an amazing, or the person that's doing the job's output. So I think it's amazing.
Right. And I think it's really important now that we are looking back post COVID
Yeah.
from a business perspective, they need to look at what they made versus their expenses. If your whole team's remote,
Yeah.
then you don't have a building to maintain. You ain't
Mm-hmm.
spending for electric, AC, travel, commute, storage, all the office equipment.
Yeah.
You know, um, what is her name? Barbara DeLozier, I believe it is, that talks about starting her company, and she's done it on $15,000, and most of that was desk and
Yeah.
telephones. And it's like you don't have to have that.
That's right. That's right.
You know,
If you have a completely remote company, you save about 20% of your overall budget because you can really focus your money on R&D and product, and then
right?
on the people that you need to actually run the company, scale and grow the company. And so I think it's amazing that so when I started Officium, that's what we did is we just started everything remote. So our upfront costs were just the original four people and the software, and that was
Right.
it.
Yeah. And then building from that.
That's right. That's right.
We're seeing a lot, New York Times, Washington Post, oh, this is terrible, this is terrible, this is running bad, this is running bad. And it's like, no, companies have been doing this for ages,
Yeah.
you know.
And
Um,
I mean, really prominent in Europe too. I think we talked offline before we started, but like when I lived in Europe, 2007 to 2012, because the teams are distributed anyways. Most of the time, I was working from home, anyways, connecting via
Hmm.
technology. Um,
Right.
Back in those days, it wasn't Zoom, but voice and video technology back in 2007 to 12, and so it was just a way of life there if you wanted to be productive in Europe.
Right. So, what have you seen post Panini in the business world when everybody got introduced to this?
Well, I mean, I think what's interesting is you have a couple of different things that happen. You have people who really excel in person,
Hmm.
and in-person business is a little bit different than
Right.
hybrid business or even remote business. Depending on the personalities and so forth. So I think we found the folks that really were like they got a lot of energy from other people. They didn't get so much energy from working remotely. So there's definitely a different persona that excels better remotely than maybe in person and so
Right.
forth. The other thing we learned is people really had to like break away to regain their energy. Because if you're in the office, you leave a meeting, you can go outside, you can go on a walk, you can
Hmm.
you can go get a coffee, you can do whatever, but you get that break.
Right.
Whereas when you're working back to back to back and you stack up your meetings, we found people started to stack their meetings
Right.
and not putting breaks in, so they started to get burned out a little bit faster. So we actually had to put together a whole training to help people schedule and work remotely so that they would
Hmm.
be more effective. The third thing that we noticed is it's very interesting psychologically when you work remotely and you don't have affirmation or feedback around you
Right.
360. Some people get in their head and they start creating stories in their head that aren't true
Hmm.
because you don't have the same exact communication styles as you do in person. You have to do a lot more proactive communication, a lot more
Right.
engaging, and so forth. And so without every now and again, we have to reel people back from being out on the island and
Right.
creating things in their head that weren't true. But I think that the thing that I found to be the most fundamentally critical is that people love the flexibility. They love the fact that they didn't have to spend an hour commuting.
Right.
They could take a lunch with their spouse, their wife, their partner. They could take their kids to an afternoon appointment and it's fine because they could work an hour later, or they
Right.
could optimize their schedule. So it really kind of gave everybody two more hours in their day to have a better
Hmm.
balance and harmony in their life. And that is by far why we've seen the lowest attrition in all the companies that I've worked for when they have a hybrid or a remote work approach rather than an in-office approach.
Right. Um, what were you surprised by the number of people that said, you know what, if you want me to come back, no.
I mean, if you think about it this way, you give somebody an amazing benefit,
Hmm.
something that they fall in love with, something that's probably more important than food in the office, more important than a ping pong table, and all these other things. You give them this amazing benefit, and then you try to pull that benefit back.
Right.
If you think about it behaviorally, let's equate it to food. Let's say you have a diet that you're used to, and all of a sudden your favorite part of the diet gets pulled away. Well, you're going to
Hmm.
be a little grumpy.
Right.
So if your favorite benefit of flexibility is pulled away, then you're going to be a little bit grumpy. So I actually wasn't surprised. I think
Right.
some people might have been surprised, but I wasn't, because when people fall in love with something, that becomes part of the company culture and the reason why they want to work for that company. So
Hmm.
just like any other benefit, like if you have a 401k and you're matching like 5% and now you're not going to match zero, well, some people are just going to leave the company because you're now changing the culture of the company because you're taking away something that they think is an essential
Right.
benefit because you had it for 3 years, so it's become essential in their mind.
Hmm. Do you see the gig economy taking over and that being the new kind of like standard expected work environment?
That's my dream state, and let me tell you why.
Okay.
I think because what I found is people that work in more flexible environments, they want to work on more projects and different diversity of projects. What
Hmm.
I find is people that go to the office every day, and I know there's some companies and something like healthcare and other things that you really need to do those types of things,
Right.
but people that are in the business go to the office, do the same thing every day, they just get bored and
Right.
they get burnt out because they don't have enough interesting things to learn. And I think that's what a lot of people in executive suites don't realize, that when they have diversity, they learn and they grow and they want to stay and they want to do different things. And
Mhm.
so in my dream world, like if I think what the world's going to look like in 2050, 50, let's say.
Right.
I envision that everyone's going to have like 3 gigs,
Right.
and they might be rotating gigs. And the governments are going to catch up with governmental benefits and healthcare and all that stuff. So we're not going to have to worry about all the tension that exists there. So we're all going to be like, hey, I want to do these two or three different things. And I'll do this thing for like 4 months. Okay, I want to move to another project. I'll do that for 6 months. You know, maybe some of the higher skilled projects are longer tenure and some of the lower skilled projects are shorter tenure. But I think that's the dream state. And I think that eventually people will get there, because like I think humanity wants to be in a state where they're continually growing, continually finding purpose, and then continually finding the ways to get the most out of their work and the most out of their home life. So that's where I think it's going. But I think there's definitely going to be a lot of tension and a lot of debate and a lot of policy that's going to have to happen over the next 20 years to get there.
And I think there has to be a new vision at the C level of what that looks like. You know,
that's
because I think that they're really stuck in that older lifestyle of, you know, you do your job title, you're there for 40 years, and it's like, no, nobody's here for 40 years anymore.
That's right.
You know, I think the last number I saw was 3.5 to 5 years with a company.
That's right. And well, I mean, exactly. Even in the Bay Area, people change jobs every 18 months in the Bay Area. And it's because they just want that diversity, and there's so much competition, right? So as the marketplace heats up and there's more competition for talent, and you know the Gen Z talent pool comes up over the next 20 years, they have different desires, they have different priorities, different focuses of life, and they're really going to push not only lawmakers but employers to change their way of thinking if they want to stay competitive, if they want to be best in the market. They're going to have to change the ways that they treat people and the opportunities they give those folks.
Well, I think they're going to probably even have to, I think the standard business is going to have to really up their offers.
That's right. Exactly.
You know, because they're going to go, well, I can work for you, or I can go work for 10 other people, and I can make more working for 10 other people in the same 40 hours.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's interesting is when we were going through the pandemic, there's an enormous amount of perceived or real power in the employee or the person that was working remotely. And now what you see is that, you know, corporations are trying to take some of that perceived or real power back. And so that's why you see a lot of tension. Some of the tension is real, some of it's perceived in headlines, but you're seeing that tension. But eventually what folks are going to realize is that if they want to hit their bottom line profits, they have to put purpose and people over profits, and then they're going to hit their profits. It's not profits and then people and purpose. And I think companies are going to start to realize that.
I agree. And I think they're going to have to also get to a point that they realize that the 40 hours don't matter.
That's right.
Because they'll do 60 hours to get your product out. Yeah, you get the hell out of their way.
That's right. Right. That and the value proposition is there for them, right?
Right. You know, and not only that, but the return on investment is there.
That's right.
You know, because one of the hardest things is training employees, getting them up to speed, getting them into projects, and then getting them to invest their time again. And I think that we're seeing a lot of people that are just done. Sorry, I've got a timer going off, and I'm where that's at.
No worries.
And apparently, I need to go take a break, but that ain't happening. I'm a very big believer of Pomodoro technique and that type of thing. But
I think it's also interesting is what we're also going to see is, as you know, companies start to go this way, employees and workers start to go this way, we're going to see new opportunities arise. So you think about the certification market. You call it training, certification, same thing. When you get to this point where you have really a flexible work style, there's going to be companies that come out and they basically become certification companies to verify and certify skills and capabilities of workers so they can be onboarded and offboarded faster, because that's what they want to do. They want to move on a project, they want to move off a project, and so forth. So you see a little bit of that. If you look at some of the platforms that exist today, you look at the Ubers, DoorDashes, you look at Fiverr, you know, you look at like our platform, the Arise platform, you see this ability to be able to certify workers to, or service partners or partners to do the work. And so as you think about the higher skill jobs, developers, designers, and other things of that nature, there's going to be companies that come up that start to become the certification gold standard or platinum standard. So companies be
Right.
like, okay, well, if it comes from XYZ, we know that we can onboard them in 1 week versus having to go through a vetting process. So I think that's going to be interesting. And then I also think the technology aspect of what needs to be done by a human versus AI is probably going to play into the maturation and
Now,
the
that's
evolution as well.
creating a lot of controversy in general, but a lot in the new age area is they're, and then they're fearful that AI is going to replace us.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of headlines about that. I think it's interesting. Well, I look at it from a different point of view. So if we take this 2050 view that I talked about earlier,
Right.
when you think about why people are going to want to do, 5 or 10, 6 or 7 different things or whatever, it's not going to be because AI is taking over. It's going to be because companies no longer need that many full-time people in a higher skilled level to do all those things, because some of the monotonous, redundant tasks that have to be done, AI is going to take care of. So these really value amazing opportunities, push the brain, push the threshold opportunities. There are now going to be more of those, but that need human beings to do that work. And so I think we have to shift ourselves away from fear of losing our jobs and more a focus of like, how do we predict what the future opportunities are going to be, and then we skill ourselves, we figure that out.
Right.
We pay attention and we skill ourselves to be competitive in that way. I mean, that's what I do. So about 20 to 30% of my job this year I use AI for. Last year it was 10%, the year before it was 5%, right? So I look at how can I use AI to optimize my job, so then I could do more higher value work, for my company and so forth. And I think as we're all responsible for our own career, I think we all have to think that way as well. And I think that's going to be an interesting push to the envelope as we go for the next 20 years too.
What I find interesting is this: the same people that are screaming about AI, that screamed about when we introduced computers to the workplace and to the home, that it was going to take over everything and run our world. Well,
Yeah.
hasn't yet. The only thing it's done is take up our living rooms and our kitchens and everywhere else. And I think AI has a very strong position in the new age business, especially when it's like copyright, data analysis, things like correspondences and that types of thing. I don't think it can give a good reading worth of crap, but I do think that it's going to at least do the stuff that we normally have to hire people to do for us.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. But I also think, like, I got a buddy who's a developer, and he said, I used to have an axe, now I have a chainsaw. And so basically he can dev faster, he can test code faster, he can release products faster.
Right.
Designers can create the low grade versions of what they need to design faster. Customer service, even in gaming, we use AI to not only optimize the overall player experience to get responses out faster, but we use it to empower and customize the experience to the player. So imagine that 5 years ago you played a video game and you send a response and I've got this problem, everybody would get the same generic canned response. And now with AI, we can give every player a customized response based off where they are in the game, what level they are, what alliance they're in. So you can create this really customizable, amazing experience that doesn't replace a human. A human still verifies everything, but does a lot of that work. So then the human can say, yeah, this is on, let's keep this engagement going. So the human manages the relationship. They don't manage necessarily all of the work to communicate in that relationship. And I think that's super valuable.
Right. And I think AI is great to check you.
That's right. Yeah.
Find your mistakes. Maybe, you're using a word that's a company culture word, but it's not really great for the outside world.
That's right.
Okay. That type of thing. So I find that very useful. So you were telling me about a meeting software you've been using and how it can really change games. The Facebook Meta.
Yeah. I mean, it's super interesting. So when you think about a fully remote company, you think about, how do we create a better experience, for the employees? And so we've been testing out the Meta Facebook virtual meeting, you put the glasses on and so forth. And it's been super interesting because, most people that work remotely or work in meetings quite a bit throughout the day, you feel drained. And I think when you're on camera all the time, it's pretty normal for you to be like, oh, I'm really low energy. I need to go catch up. And you look at your calendar, you're like, oh, I got another meeting. So what we thought, we're big in the experimentation enterprise. And so we thought, hey, let's experiment with using this new technology to try to introduce it to 15 to 20% of our meetings to see, like, what impact does that have? How do people respond to it? Do they love it? Do they hate it? All those different types of things while you do
Right.
experiments. And what we found is, the first couple of meetings, people are like, what's my profile? What's my avatar? I'm looking this way. I'm looking, they're trying to figure out, like, anytime your brain gets into a new environment, if I close my eyes here and I open my eyes in your house, or in your lab there, I would look around and try to get my bearings. It's the same thing when you go into a virtual world, right?
Right.
But then when people got used to it, they're like, we identify if it's like a meta meeting or whatever, and they get on, you got like this table, you see everybody's avatars, you can talk to them, you can see their mouth moving, it's a different experience. You get to like disconnect from the visual piece, where if like you need to take a quick break, you don't have to say be right back, you just take a quick break and come right back, because your avatar stays the same, right? But what we found is it helped people regain their energy. It helped them be more productive, because they knew they had that release time, right? And it's so important for human beings to have that release time. And it's hard for human beings to give themselves permission in their schedule. Like, I talked to thousands of employees and workers, and I'm like, why don't you just schedule the breaks? And like, oh no, I can't do that. I got to be productive. And I'm like, no, you got to schedule the breaks. And so since they won't, this is a good way for us to like kind of institute breaks a little bit. That's one way that we do it. And then when we do the virtual meetings, we've set up this practice where they're 25-minute meetings, not 30. Or like 55-minute and not 60. So we're like, hey, we're at the 55, we're done. Like, wherever the conversation is, go take your 5 minutes, right? And so I think that kind of, you can do that in non-virtual meetings as well, and these types of meetings. But I think setting those types of mechanics up really help people to kind of regain their energy, regain their composure, and really help them to have that more creative time and that thinking time, when they don't feel like they have to look at the camera 100% of the time, or someone's going to think that they're not engaged, right? That type of thing.
Right. Or they're going to think that they're not connected.
That's right.
I'm a 15-minute meeting person. Get me in, get me out. Tell me what you don't need, what you could not tell me in an email.
I love it.
But do you find it's better for your designers, because then they can like go into a game world, and actually like walk through the forest? Or have we gotten there yet?
Well, I mean, I think that we're getting there. We don't use Meta for that particular piece. We do use 3D modeling, and we have the ability to share 3D modeling where you can feel like you're in the experience as you walk through it. But we haven't started using Meta for that. But I know that like when we look at the next kind of iteration of gaming, the metaverse, as it's coined, it's a niche market right now. I think in order for it to be adopted full scale at the consumer level, is the same as the cell phone, the same as the video game console. It has to, the price point and the usability, UX and UI has to be seamless, right? It's not there yet. But I think that like designers and coders, they actually do go into the environment. Again, not necessarily with Meta, but there's lots of different technologies out there where they build it and they experience it almost like an open world concept. And that helps them understand, well, what is the player going to be going through? Whether they're playing with a 2D device that demonstrates 3D, or a 3D device that demonstrates 3D, or whether the 3D's around them, it helps them to kind of build and understand what's that experience going to be like for the player. And they actually get to see like, oh, that's going to be a bug. That's going to be a bug. That's going to be a problem, where they don't necessarily, if you do 2D and 2D design and 2D code, you don't necessarily see that. And so it opens up the experience a bit.
Yeah, because my invisible assistant is a gamer completely, and I do not remember what the game was, but I can remember hearing him curse from, he's on the other side there, about 1,500 feet that direction, curse because he was in the middle of a game. He's gaming him. He's been like grinding this game out.
Yep.
And he gets somewhere, and there's this rock, and he can't get around it.
Yep.
He had to wait for the patch to come out, and I'm like,
oh goodness.
Yeah, let's hope that it's able to get past that point and get into a point where it is really, because I see so many possibilities with it. Like before you build your house, walking through your house and being like, okay, here's the faucet, here's the couch, that receptacle right there, that's not going to work.
Yeah, it's going to be a problem. Yeah,
I need it over here. Those standard things, I think, would cut down on a lot of financial overhead.
Well, I think so, and I think not only for the designers, but for you can create 3D bots too that can do that too. They can like today when you do game testing, right? If let's say you have a AAA game, whether it's console or mobile, you have to hire 500, 1,000, testers to go through it, and you don't completely test every iteration. But let's say you still have those same 500,000 testers that are focused on really high touch, high valuable things, and then you have 1,000 bot testers that are going through and making sure every nook and cranny isn't broken or make everything's working. Then that's going to be a better game for the players. It's going to create higher stickiness and less, as you said, swear words, frustration.
A lot less swear words and a lot less of I don't think I've bought him another one of those games. It was like, no, I'm done with this series. Forget it. And that's an experience you don't want anyone,
customer
having. What do you think of the stuff coming out of Blizzard about their work environment?
Well, I mean, I think so. I have 7 sisters, right? So I'm a big proponent of diversity in all of its forms. In my family, we have an interracial family. And so I have nephews and nieces that are Hispanic, that are African American, Asian, and so forth. And so I think it's really important that work environments are psychologically safe for everybody, and that they are very empowering for everyone. And any work environment that's not doing that is not really doing a good job for its people. I've done a couple segments in the past where I talk about women in gaming. I talk about, people don't realize like 47% of the globe are women that play games on a daily basis, 47%. So you have 5-6 billion gamers at its peak, and almost half of them are women. And so we have this challenge where we don't have enough women in design roles, in dev roles, and leadership roles. We don't have enough minorities or diversity in those roles, in different countries that have the predominant large studios, right? And so I think so what we're doing is we're underserving the gamer population by not creating environments from people that think, operate, and act like them, right? Like I honestly couldn't create a game for my sisters. I could create a game, but some of them might like it, some might not. But my sister, if she becomes a programmer, she probably can create a game, that my sisters would adopt, that would play, would enjoy, right? And I'm not being stereotypical, but in general, when you have more voices, you have more viewpoints into, you get a better outcome. But a lot of companies, aren't willing to take the time, the effort, or the energy to make sure that environment is being created. One of the things we're really proud of at Arise is, in our service partner network, we have, I think, 63% minorities in the workplace. Inside of our leadership team is about 50% female. And I think it's really important that you create really great environments for people to operate in. And if you're not doing that, then you need to take care of your business inside of your company, because the future generations, this goes back to what we talked about earlier. The future generations, they don't think that diversity is a benefit. They think diversity is table stakes. And so if you're not taking care of diversity and treating people appropriately, it is going to eventually impact your business.
Yeah. Do you think that, in your opinion, do you think that Blizzard needs to go and clean house and change their culture majorly?
I don't have all of the details inside of Blizzard, and transparently, Blizzard is is a good customer of ours, and so forth. I know. And so, but I think that they need to take the actions that they need to do in order to make their company all the things that I just said. And if that means cleaning house, that means cleaning house. If that means changing policies, that means changing policies. I've been a CEO of a couple of companies. I've been in leadership of a lot of companies. So I don't always know what's happening in all of the different companies, and I know what hits the press and what doesn't. So I want to be fair in that point. But there's definitely some challenges, and not only Blizzard. There's a lot of companies out there. There's a lot of toxicity in gaming and other
well, there's a lot industries. Of toxicity in gaming. There's a lot of toxicity in all companies.
Yeah, exactly. And we have to address that.
Right. And then, we have that, what I call upper level, that gets so disconnected.
That's right.
And I think that becomes a major issue. Is when the CEO isn't taking Sam Walton's example with business.
Yeah.
And staying in their offices and not talking to their employees, not talking to their partners, not talking to their industry people, they get disconnected. And then they don't know what the heck's going on.
Yeah.
And then we have unmatched, in my opinion, expectation versus actual deliverable reality.
That's right. I mean, I think I've always been a big proponent. So we talked about the Postmates example
Hmm.
where I used to drive and be a courier or ride my
Right.
bike. I think it's so important that anybody in any leadership position, they take intentional time to
Hmm.
to be with the employees, be with the workers, and understand what their day-to-day life is, understand their pains, understand their passions. Because it's your job to be able, as a leader, to be able to go from the 50,000-foot view, is which what the board wants, down
Right.
to the 5-foot view, which is what your employees and your people need.
Hmm.
And it's your job as a good leader to be able to do that. And anybody that isn't doing that doesn't understand like the longevity of successful business. I
Sure.
understand that you can't be at the 5-foot level all the time. I couldn't either. But what I find is the example that you shared is when I accidentally, not intentionally, when
Hmm.
I accidentally even get disconnected for my frontline workers for a month or 2 months just because I'm busy doing this and that and trying to do this board meeting and that, then I lose touch. And it's so important for me to go back and engage not only with the people but also with your customers. A lot
Yeah.
of executive teams, they don't go and talk to their customers, whether it's a consumer customer or a business customer. They don't
Right.
go and understand what the customer needs, and they focus more on the outcomes of the P&L rather
Right.
than, what does my customer need and want? And then they get disconnected from the value proposition that their product
Right.
brings.
And then they also, and I think they leave money on the table
Yeah, they definitely do.
on
I
both
mean,
sides of the fence.
if you look at the top 10 business companies, would you speak business technology
Hmm.
companies over the last 30 years, you'll see there's been a major shift
Hmm.
since 1992 to today, right? I mean,
Right.
we don't see Netscape Navigator really anymore, right? They had a
No.
huge opportunity to
Right.
take the market. We don't see Earthlink, we don't see a lot of these things.
Right.
Yahoo's much smaller than it ever was before. There's just
Another
companies which,
stamping company.
yeah, there's just a lot of tales of some companies adapted,
Right.
and adaptation is the secret to success. It's not survival of the fittest, it's survival of the most profitable. It's
Right.
adaptation. I think what you've seen, what's interesting with Microsoft, which is why over the last 30 years, I don't agree with everything that Microsoft has done, but
Right.
what has been interesting they've done is, as they've transitioned from, when I was there with Steve,
Hmm.
and with Bill, to the leadership team they have now, and the product stack and the suite they have now, is they've adopted. They added the cloud, they added Xbox, they added new consumer products that now compete with Zoom. So you see that they understand that in order to be successful, they have to adapt to what
Sure.
their customers want,
Right.
or they're not going to be, in the top 10 list anymore. But then the other thing that I think is interesting, what I love about business, and I have to tell you this, is
Hmm.
I love that you can have these startup companies that come out of nowhere
Right.
that have been around for a little while but haven't been known. Like ChatGPT is a great example, right?
Right.
But have been around. They've been around for many years, but they just
Sure.
got really publicly known now. Zoom was around for a number of years, but when the pandemic hit, they became like hugely successful.
And they
I
sharked. Now they, I will say, Zoom sharked their butt and jerked the Skype world and said, we got this. Hold still here. So let's
Yeah,
drop our licensing fee for independent people.
yeah,
Let's immediately make one-on-one meetings unlimited. You
yeah.
know,
They adapted.
they went from like this quiet little like, oh, you can host meetings over here, to a freaking behemoth well within about 48 hours.
And it was amazing. And like, so I used Zoom 5 years before the pandemic,
Right.
and I love Zoom. And that what Zoom did in the early days, and which I think is still really powerful, and
Hmm.
people, they don't realize this, the Zoom video codec is the secret sauce.
Right.
That's why it's so successful. Like, if you pre-pandemic, everyone's kind of cleaned up their video codec now,
Right.
but pre-pandemic, like everybody's video codec was, it didn't transfer. There was
Right.
bitrate issues, blah blah blah. But Zoom really nailed that, and that was the quality thing that I think really helped them as well. But
Right.
you're right; they adapted on their model to fit what the market needed.
Yeah. And then they expanded
That's
quickly.
right. That's right.
And
That's right.
like right now, they would, right now they're throwing like special offers out there and stuff, and it isn't because they lost market share. It's because, no, they got everyone comfortable with them real quick, because
That's right.
day one of that, we had WebMX, we had Zoom, Skype running. Some companies were running their own private video conferencing that they're
Yeah.
paying buku money, and within 2 months, it's like, no, everything went to Zoom, and everything went to Zoom quickly.
Well, Zoom became Google, right?
Yeah.
You're going to Google it. You're going to have a Zoom meeting. It just became the word.
Right. Very much so. So with that, do you think that do you see any quick changes occurring? I mean, because we got Monarch finally launching with Microsoft.
Yeah.
That was a 10-year drag out project for people, and I'm going, please get me something, you know.
Well, I mean, I think it's interesting. So what I've noticed is we're not using Zoom today, right?
No.
And so what I've noticed is there's been an interesting niche that's built in the market for really high quality video
Mm-hmm.
and high quality recording.
Right.
And so I think that, then you start to see Microsoft that they're launching not Monarch, but they're also trying to grow their Teams product as well.
Right.
And you see, I mean, you see some of the, like, Cisco's trying to get back into it, and a couple other players are getting back into
I
it.
think they should stick to technology.
Yeah. But I mean, what I think would be powerful is so Cisco had this interesting technology which was super expensive.
Right.
But it was phenomenal in 2008. It's called telepresence.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you had to spend an enormous amount of money to get it. And
Right.
then you had to install it in every building that you wanted to use it. But it made you feel like you were 360 in the room.
Uh-huh.
When you were in the meetings, you actually felt like you were in person.
Right.
And it was one of the most booked out rooms in any building that when we used it. And so I think, who is going to capitalize on how to recreate that type of a technology and experience without the cost and without the technology infrastructure? I think that's who's going to kind of win in the future.
No problem. Very much so. That and the first person that can actually break the hologram.
That's right. That one too. Yeah.
The fully functional hologram, because that's where we're headed.
Yeah.
Well, Jonathan, thank you so much for sitting down with us. Are you doing any trainings? Do you have anything coming out on Forbes? What you up to?
Yeah, I mean, so I've been doing some pretty fun stuff with Forbes. I release an article kind of once a month. When I write about Forbes, I talk about marketing, SEO, gaming. I think a lot of folks don't understand, like, the new age with marketing. I love, like, when I talk about gaming and advertising, people are like, what does that mean? Like, tell me more about that. And I was like, so the Nintendo through Niantic came out with a Pokemon game like 4 or 5 years ago. And it was an AR game, right? And there was a huge Pokemon craze. Everyone started walking and exercising, and you were getting dragons and so forth. But what folks don't realize is, like, in the next 2 or 3 years, AR marketing is going to, like, hit full throttle. You're going to be able to have your phone enabled, like, you have to choose enabled, but enable AR, and you're going to pass by a store and they're going to pop up a coupon. They're going to pop up and say, hey, stop by the pizza place and we'll give you $10 off. Stop by the quilting place and we'll give you 5% off. So there's just going to be this amazing boom in marketing. So I love kind of the AR marketing place. So, so I've been talking quite a bit about that. In the gaming space, what's kind of interesting is a lot of folks don't realize, especially in mobile gaming. So mobile gaming makes up about 70% of the $220 billion spent a year in gaming, which, by the way, is 8 to 10x times the size of Hollywood. People don't realize that. But what's interesting is that there's an amazing way that you can create a better experience for players, and then those players will spend more time, money inside of the game. And so I've created this capability with AI. So you combine AI with this program that I've created called the Service Stack Maturity Model, which institutes essentially a proactive way to manage your players from an account management standpoint. So rather than treating them as like, oh, they submitted a ticket, let me respond, you think of every player as an account. And you, almost like if you buy an enterprise account license from Microsoft or Symantec or wherever, that you have an account manager. So that same type of a concept. So that's been kind of fun, because what you see is this amazing evolution that's happening in gaming, where they're like, oh, AI can help us optimize the experience and create a better experience. So then we by doing that, we get more value to our players, which means we make more money. So I think that's pretty fun. And then I think the third thing that I continue to double click on, and it's this really important impact of mental health. And so most folks don't know it, but I have PTSD, I have chronic anxiety, things we won't talk about why here, but I'm really big into mental health. So video games really helps mental health. Remote work really helps mental health, and really thinking about how do we treat people responsibly and respectfully really helps mental health. And so I've been talking a lot about those things, but I really, I talk about lots of different fun things, but I'm really passionate about people, the future, the creativity, what they can do. How do we create environments, whether they're virtual environments, whether they're real environments? How can video games help them be more successful in life,
Right.
because it
I
helped
mean,
me help me through some of my most challenging parts of my life. Go ahead.
right. And parents get really, I don't know. They used to get like, huh? Children with ADHD. The
That's right.
easiest way
Yeah,
you can get them to calm down is throw a controller in your hand, say you got 1 hour, go blow something up, and then we got to come back here and do homework.
that's right. Yeah, and
Yeah.
well, they don't also realize that, like, a lot of people don't realize video games teach people common
Right.
business practices too. So people are
Yeah.
like, well, how do I learn business practices of video games? I said, well, when people got tired in the pandemic of being on a Zoom meeting, they went into Red Dead Redemption,
Mm-hmm.
and they held their meetings as characters in Red Dead Redemption. It was amazing. I did the same thing. It was
Yep.
fun. But more importantly, like, inside of video games, they have these things, alliances, clans, different games call
Mm-hmm.
them different things. But in order to be successful in the game, you have to cooperate. You have to come up with strategies. You have
Right.
to learn how to work together. And it's the
Mm-hmm.
same thing that you have to do in a work environment. You
Mm-hmm.
come together as a clan. You say, how are we're going to compete against this other clan? How are we going to win against this clan? What's our strategy? Whether we're going to smelt this, we're going to build this. You're going to be the attacker. I'm going to be the tank that's going to be the defender. And you've got
Right.
to do this. You got to do the same things, different words in business, but you learn that same cooperation, that same
Right.
capability, and you learn that in video games. Like, I was so surprised. So I didn't start my career off first in video games. I was in customer service, but then I quickly came into video games. And what I learned is that people that play video games and also are professionals are the most in-depth, complex thinkers that I've ever worked with in my
Right.
life. And it's because they did it in video games, and now they do it in real life. So I think it's pretty amazing.
And
So
I think
those are some of the things that I'm pretty
right.
passionate
And I
about.
think that video games in general teach, the dollars and cents. You do X, you get this much. This is how you manage energy.
That's right.
That's a big talking point right now. Is managing your energy and keeping your go play a video game when you only got, like, I don't know, 42 energy, little
That's
light
right.
things.
That's right.
What are you gonna do?
That's right. And managing budgets too. You got to do the
Yeah.
same thing. That's how I learned how to manage budgets, was video games as a kid. And then I was a controller for a while, not anymore, but I learned how to manage budgets. So when I was a CEO, it ultimately went back to, like, well, like Super Mario Brothers 3, I got all of these assets. How am I going to use all of these assets? And I have this time.
Right.
It starts with that, and then you could just kind of build from there.
Right. And I think that holding meetings in a game sounds amazing.
It is amazing.
I'm very happy with Old Linden Labs. I have a whole office there.
I love it.
So with that, thank you so much for joining us. Guys, go check him out. Just Google him. He's in Forbes with Chief Columnist. He does a lot of stuff there. And you guys, in the psychic world, you think this isn't playing us and isn't affecting us. I will remind you, I have a tarot deck in Second Life, and I can do readings for people in Bali there.
I love it. And they can also find me at chiefcxofficer.com.
Okay.
As well as LinkedIn. So, but thanks for the opportunity. It was great to have the opportunity to talk about a multiple number of topics. I loved it.
Anytime, and come back. Have a cup of coffee when something comes up, when something's cool. I'd love to have you back.
Most def, man.
Awesome. All right. Have a great day, darling.
You too.
Hi, this is Sandy Starr. I'm a psychic and I work on Keen, and I have been working on Keen for over 22 years. You can reach me on 01068. I deal with a myriad of subjects, but I do specialize in relationships, marriages, divorces. Is he cheating? Is she cheating? Whatever the dynamic of the relationship is, I will guide you through. I've got amazing radar for cheaters, so I will tell you the truth if he or she is cheating. I can help with any subject you need me to help you with besides relationships, and I look forward to hearing from you. Again, you can reach me through Keen, and my extension number is 01068. I really look forward to hearing from you and helping you with whatever you need me to help you with.
Hi, I'm Tracy Van. I'm a psychic medium and I work with tarot cards. I also practice Reiki and access bars. I would like to share with you what a reading with me is like. It is a blended reading of psychic and mediumship, and I deliver these messages exactly as they come through. I'm not going to mince words or add any padding. I am a professional, reliable, and honest communicator, I have readings available anywhere from 15 minutes to an hour. You can book a reading with me at tracyvann.com. That's TracyVann.com. And no, I'll always tell you exactly what you need to hear.
Hey everybody, Natalie here from The Pendulum's Path. If you are in need of guidance, direction, spiritual connection, healing, or more, you have come to the right place. I have worked as a psychic and a medium for over 3 years, connecting people from all over the world with their loved ones, giving them insight and guidance into their current situations, their past healings, their blockages, and what they need to know in order for them to have a better future. It would be my absolute honor if you would come to my website at www.thependulumspath.com. Visit my shop. I have a whole bunch of crystals, oils, balms, mystery boxes, and more. And visit my services. I offer 15-minute, 30-minute, and 60-minute sessions. I also have email readings available if you're not comfortable with the one-on-one session with me, or if you just want to try me out. I encourage you to come visit me at the Pendulum's Path, and let's get you back on the right track today.
Hey everybody, Lady Gwendolyn here from Rowan Temple of Light, and I'm here to tell you about our events this summer. First up is Beltane in the Hills, May 13th, and that is from 1 to 6. We have entertainment, we have a bunch of vendors, we have a fairy photo shoot. It's going to be exciting. You having any questions, reach out to Earth Magic or to myself. After that, we have Central West Virginia Pagan Pride, August 19th. That's at Holly Gray Park from 11 to 5 for the day. And we will have Sarah Masters coming down from Pittsburgh to be our keynote speaker. We have some great classes for that. So if you want to get involved, reach out to Rowan Temple of Light at Gmail, or just follow us along on Facebook at Rowan Temple of Light, and we look forward to seeing you out in the community. See you there.
Hello, Joe, darling. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you this evening?
Good. I just had the best conversation with Jonathan. A lot of CEO stuff, a lot of, stuff about, your industry, a lot of stuff that we hear at the dining room table from the invisible assistant. It's been fun. His columns on Forbes are amazing. Like, I think I'm going to be forwarding a few of them over to a certain new CEO that we have over in Ingenio, and going, here you go. This is customer service. And plow these ideas. Maybe she'll like me, since the last one didn't.
Well, like if I think it would be really interesting if there's to see if there's a platform making a race into virtual space. For psychic advice. I think it would be friggin' awesome. Because I think like there's a few of you guys in there that are like doing like Second Life, virtual readings, all that. But to actually have a platform that encourages it, I think would be really awesome.
Oh, I think it would be insane to have a platform that gives us a virtual office that, the clients can immediately enter into the world, create their avatar, whatever, Insta avatar, nothing expansive. And, they're able to literally walk into our area, sit down at our desks, and have a full interactive communication.
I'm kind of surprised that the Panini did not cause that to happen.
Well,
but I don't think they were ready. They weren't ready. They were like, oh my God, just survive, just survive, just survive.
Right, and that's because when the Panini hit our industry, every one of us pivoted quickly. Because we had to go from
like the call volumes
alone
tremendously.
Right.
And it really did become a race for, I think, all of the networks just to keep the systems running, because it was like, what the hell?
Right. And then
like, we built this
very quick flip. I mean, that's when, I came off of midnights and went into day shift, and we had such a push for the word.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say struggle bus, because it was like, get everything together, get you reacclimated to days, get everything in our life set up for you to be on days, like change appointments, rearrange everything, while we're doing that on top of the panini itself.
Well, that, we also seen big pushes from platforms that were A, trying to control their workers, B, we aren't workers, we're, business owners ourselves, and we're trying to pivot and figure out, okay, what's our next move? We had so many coming off the road. We had so many entertainers canceling tours. And at the same time,
yeah, a lot of, and that's probably a bigger point too, is you also had a lot of people that were like, oh, I don't need to work platforms, I'll just do in person. And then it was like, no one can do in person. Are you crazy?
Right. And then
no one's doing that. Like, you'll die. Well, and then that's also a component of the network situation as well, is that there were a large number who unfortunately passed.
Right.
Like some very big names that had been on the networks for years, that were like top of the list, like they're bidding high to rank high. And it just became this little in memoriam in the forums, because one by one,
or 25 in a day and 35 in a day, we're close. We've gotten reports, and it was almost like battleground of, okay, here's our casualty list for today, and then we have our clients going through that at the same time, and everyone is like, I want to say our industry should have been more ready for the panini, but we weren't, because it was so multifaceted.
Well, in a way, but then we turn around and look backwards.
Right.
Like, I remember 2019, I was like, Jesus Christ, you need to invest in Kleenex at the rate that you're making everyone cry. Like, what are you doing over there?
Right.
The reading was the reading. you know, like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, people are asking about their relationships and their businesses and their whatever. And it's like, I'm telling them the reading, and they're just like bawling, because it's like, this bad thing's going to happen, that bad thing's going to happen. Like, you're going to lose your business. Like, I don't think this relationship's going to last too long. And just like, with no context, a lot of people were also getting angry at their readings. Like, well, how the hell would that happen?
Right.
Like, we're doing great. Oh, well, you run a restaurant. It's 2019. In a few months, that's going to be a problem.
Right.
If that's your sole source of income. But again, it's like, I don't think anyone was really, like, unless you go all the way back to Sylvia Brown, you weren't really getting the context of there is a looming storm that is huge.
Interesting, there wasn't a name for it. Okay, there wasn't this big name, but a lot of my CEOs, I'm like, you need to work. And if you go back and watch the older psychic coffee shops, like 18, 19, 20, I'm preaching remote work. I'm preaching self-sufficiency. I'm preaching slowing your time down, focusing on pivoting, keeping yourself flexible, changing your perspective.
Now might be a good time to look at a different career.
Right.
Like, look at a work from home opportunity.
Right.
No, I remember
it was very pie in the sky, and now we're looking at it, and it's very
like,
much.
This is normal.
This is normal.
This is normal.
Yeah.
This is the new normal.
Yeah.
I find it funny, so many businesses are still trying to fight it.
Well, I think it's because and this is where, I think it's because they're fighting it for two reasons. One, they think they should. Why? Because we see somebody, who runs a company that apparently doesn't know how to sign its name now, doing it. And we have what I call the Morgan Stanley behavior, which is, you copy everything everyone else is doing. Hi, Brenda. How are you, honey?
Still make a profit. You show up 5 minutes late, you undercut the competitor.
Right. You know, so they're copying that, but the other side of that I see, and it's kind of like the number of CEOs that went into black turtleneck and gray pants. It's like, oh, please, come on.
Oh,
Y'all
please
all
quit trying
cannot
to
be
sell
Steve
the
Jobs.
visionary. Please quit trying to sell the visionary.
Mm-hmm.
Like, very few people can do it.
Right. Very much so. All right, so let's move over to our favorite segment of the evening.
Yes, everyone loves it. Am I the asshole for telling my brother that his sons need to wear clothes around the house? I, female 33, live with my husband and our daughter, female 10. I have a brother, male 29, who has two sons, male 7 and male 6. My brother and nephews recently moved in with us as they were about to become homeless. My brother is a single dad and his ex isn't in the picture. The weather is a bit warmer out and my brother has been letting his sons wander around the house or even run in the backyard fully naked. My brother makes comments like, those crazy kids will do whatever they want, I guess. I talked to my brother and I told him that this isn't appropriate in our house and they need to wear clothes and that they're too old for this. My brother got annoyed and said they're just being kids and said it's unfair for me to treat them like adults and even said that I'm the one being inappropriate. He then went and talked to my husband man to man, where my husband essentially told him our house, our rules, and that we aren't budging on the issue. My nephews now wear clothes around the house, but my brother is avoiding speaking to me and is very abrupt. He's clearly still upset about this. He hasn't been this annoyed with me in a long time, so I need some third-party opinions as I'm feeling unsure of my own stance now.
Okay. Not the asshole. Not the asshole.
Yeah, I think for your own house, that's a not the asshole.
Right.
That's just across the board, not the asshole. Your house, your rules.
Right.
I do wonder what their situation was before.
Right.
Because it's kind of funny. It reminds me of and I'll be as generic as possible, of family members who lived more rurally. And so when the kids were little,
right.
like, do whatever you want, like go run around. There's no neighbors, no one cares.
Right.
Run free, little man, run free. Would have been perfectly normal. To then, and there was a big abrupt transition with that, due to a marital situation that led to moving into the city, and there was an adjustment period.
Right.
You're like all these things that had been normal, like, because they were rural.
Right.
And all the pets and all the freedoms and all the just go pee behind the tree like no one cares. Whatever, drink from the garden hose, whatever, no one cares. Suddenly they're living in an apartment complex.
Right.
And there's some things your apartment complex neighbors will freak out about.
Right.
And your random single digit child peeing behind a bush,
right,
is one of those things.
Well, but at the same time, here's the problem, and here's the way I see this. It's not his house.
No.
This is not the culture of that house. This is not the culture of living with multiple people.
Well, I'm wondering if
take that into consideration. Absolutely. And brothers not. Brothers like, well, they do it at my house. They can do it at my house within your house, and it's like, no. The other thing, is highly, highly, highly suggestible. They need an exit strategy. Like, they've gotten themselves into something. They need an exit strategy.
Well, and I think, like, here's my problem with this, is I think this was probably an abrupt move without a lot of thought, and potentially a lot of stress behind it. That, like, and I don't want to call anyone a bad parent necessarily, because I don't think this is particularly like you were a bad parent. I think you were a bit thoughtless on your role as a parent in this one, to the brother who's a father. In this situation, you were making an abrupt change in living environment and circumstance.
Right.
And I think you really missed the concept that like the things that you could do in your own home are suddenly going to change dramatically because this isn't the environment that's going to support that.
Right.
Because predominantly, I'm going to assume this is an environment that just can't support that. That like this is normal. This isn't what people do. Like we're living in suburbia. Like friggin' Karen, like 25 feet away from me, is going to have a stroke.
Right.
If you do this, like we have an HOA. You know, like you can't be doing this.
Right. And you know, we bring up the 10-year-old daughter, and it's like it doesn't matter. You know, when you have a group of individuals, you have to treat them all the same.
Well, and I mean, in some circumstances, like the 10-year-old daughter may be running around the same way in a totally different environment.
Right.
Like if they lived out where the brother lived,
right,
the 10-year-old would be running around half naked or naked or whatever, just like free baby. You know, because there is a certain school of thought to that, and like, cool, whatever. Like, you know, as long as the child's not harmed or in danger or, you know, being exploited, like, and it's just free baby running around because who's gonna know? Who's gonna like live textile free, like enjoy it while you can. And then, you know, like, hi, okay, welcome to adulthood. You have to wear textiles to leave the property and go out and do the things.
Right.
And there is sometimes a lot of stress around that with like naturist families and nudist families. That like this is in its most part kind of an innocence thing.
Right.
It's like this isn't sexualized nudity at all.
Right.
But when you like leave areas in which that is acceptable and appropriate, and you have control.
Right.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with not the asshole.
Right.
Though I think that this is gonna end up a bigger conversation you're gonna have to have. And that like there may be a big feeling of lifestyle attack here.
Right.
That like you're attacking his lifestyle and his choices and how he parents at a time in which he's already feeling like everything he's doing is wrong, and it's ended up in the situation where he's now homeless and having to move in with his sister, and just like the stone is crashing down of like, I suck at this.
Right, but see, here's the problem, and this is my viewpoint of the problem. The problem is he isn't playing by the rules. He needs to be playing by the rules, and also be very direct with those rules. You know, those rules should have been made clear. It should not be a changing sandscape. But what he's teaching his boys is you don't have to respect boundaries, and that's not a good thing to be doing here.
Right. Well, and then you start creating problems for the sister and their child.
Right.
Because that's going to be a disparity of like, well, why do I have to wear clothes if the boys can run around naked? Like, ugh.
Right. Why can't I eat cereal in the living room if they're eating cereal in the living room? I mean, you know, let's take the faux pas away from it, and it gets very complicated. All right, guys, so the poll is up. Go and vote if she is the asshole for setting boundaries in her own home.
Yes.
All right, over to relationship advice.
All right, my 42 male boyfriend, 37 male, has a high-paying, do-nothing job, and it's really starting to give me strong feelings of resentment and jealousy. We've been together about 6 years, living together for 3.5. He works for a large corporation and has been working remotely since COVID came to town. By working, I mean he attends hour-ish long meetings, on Monday and Thursday mornings on Teams, camera off, and to which he never seems to contribute much of anything. He spends maybe 10 to 15 minutes a day replying to emails. Very occasionally, he has to make a phone call. About 3 hours of work a week, tops. For this, he pulls in nearly 3 times my income. And he recently got promoted. I'm a nurse. I don't want to be one of those healthcare workers who acts holier than thou about his job, but I do spend 12 hours on my feet working. Granted, I only work 3 to 4 days a week, but when I come home, I'm exhausted. We split our finances evenly, and he has never hesitated to give me money when I need it or he even thinks I need it. We split housework evenly, and he always does his fair share. He is loving, caring, considerate. He's always interested in me. He always asks about my day. I stopped asking about his day a long time ago. The answer was always the same: not much. He's had a relatively easy life. That's not his fault. It's just how the dice landed. He grew up solidly middle class and did the things he was supposed to do, and things fell into place for him. I grew up poor. I've been working since my teens. I spent much of my adulthood poor, but I managed to get myself through school, and I've been proud of my accomplishments. I come home after a long day and see him lounging around in the same clothes he slept in, and I find myself just seething with jealousy and anger at how unfair the world is. I don't want to blame him or anyone for being the benefactor of luck they didn't ask for, but I can't deny my feelings. I can't deny that increasingly I'm seeing the person I love as a symbol of so much that is wrong in the world today. And I do love him, and I don't want to feel this way. Ooh.
See,
How do you...
Here's the thing. There's no way this is all he's doing. Okay? First of all.
Okay.
In general. So first of all, you don't understand the scope of his work. Is he doing the same thing you are? No. Is he in like hour-long meetings and he's answering emails and he may have to make a phone call or two? Yeah, but he's obviously doing something else. He is making it look graceful and easy.
Well, and it may be that to him it's boring or stressful, and he really just doesn't want to talk about it, or has that moment of like, how am I supposed to compare to you?
Right.
Like as in, I know what you do is hard. I know that you're on your feet for 12 hours. I know that you have dealt with some like nasty, god awful gore, blood, organs, all that. And there's no, like, I can't compete with it.
Right.
Like, oh my God, I had a really hard day. Like, I had to, like, listen to someone pontificate for an hour and a half about something I didn't care about.
Right.
You know, like, oh my God, my life is so hard. What happened to you today, honey? Well, 14 people vomited on me.
Exactly.
You know, like, how do you...
Right. And it's like, you know, back horse view comparative to our work lives. We're in 2 different industries that interlink. You'd think I'm busy all day on calls, but I've got a game up and playing, so it can't be that stress inducing. You know, like, it took you a little bit to understand what I was doing when we first got together and how much was coming out of that.
Yeah, there are aspects to it that it's like, what? Like, I'm confused. I'm lost.
Right.
Because I thought you were on and taking calls and chats, and then every time I look over, it's like you've got a game up. So are you working or gaming? And it's like both. And it's like, okay, interesting, because like that's not really a thing I can do.
Right.
Now, granted, the game that you had up then, which you still play a little, well, fair amount actually, is one that it's not time limited. It's not, you know, it's like that necessarily. So like you can, so to speak, walk away,
right,
and go take a call, go take a chat, and like you're not harmed or impacted. Like you're not
right.
getting.
I'm not playing World of Warcraft where I can have my head chopped off, or Star Trek Online.
Yeah. Like, try to pause a raid. Good luck.
Yeah.
Like it
What am I
doesn't.
going to raid the tiki bar? Anyhow,
Yeah, right.
you know, but it takes you a moment to understand that, no, that's up to keep the computer from falling asleep. That's up for productivity. That's up for me to, you know, take a breath into a thing or to provide live interactions with humans in a different space.
Right. Well, and then sometimes someone's contribution to a situation, because we're not even getting like, what's the job title?
Right.
Like, do you even know what the job title is? Can you tell me what the job title is? Because you're seeing what them working looks like.
Right.
But there's a number of different ways that could be something else.
Right.
Like, I'm sorry, I work in IT. I don't always have to talk a lot.
Right.
You know, I have to take a lot of information in and then turn around and go, okay, how do we make that into a thing? Or how do we make that work in a given situation?
Right.
And so, yeah, I can sit in meetings for hours at an end and then have like 2 minutes of contribution. And that may be the most important 2 minutes of a meeting.
Right. Or, you know,
because I just took in like 50 people's problems, or the equivalent thereof. Like 5 people are talking, telling me, you know, 5 departments' problems, and how this data isn't moving from this department to this department, and then by the time it gets to this department, it's screwed up. And then and like walking and iterating through that and figuring out, okay, how do we make this process run more smoothly?
Right.
And make this all work together so that everyone gets what they need the way they need it. And are there things that can be automated here? And I've done that before, and sometimes it really is just listening to people go on and on and on and on and on, and take out of that like what the problem is versus what the feelings are. Because people will spend like 80% of their time talking about their feelings about a problem, and then like, here's the nugget.
Right.
And so you take the nugget and you take the nugget and you take the nugget and go, oh, okay, I see what's happening here.
Right. Well, and you know, I can be in video meetings all day long, and they have nothing, and I mean nothing, for me to input on. Most of them I can't, you know, say anything verbally because it's a controlled meeting environment. But I'm still required to be there. There's still a survey at the end that I have to fill out. There's still this, there's still that. And, you know, I'm looking at models and stuff and going, yeah, that don't work. Yeah, that don't work. You know, and the designers are like trying to figure out, you know, well, what do you need and how do you need it? Unfortunately, that is the problem when you have oil companies owning movie theaters. It doesn't work. But on the other side of that, you have 2 different jobs.
Like, respect that these are 2 totally different things.
Right. And there's no reason to be resentful because it's not a do-nothing job, because there is no do-nothing job out there.
Oh, there may be a few out there.
And no, I think the only do-nothing job out there is a no job.
Well, fair enough. But even that, like, I've had moments of unemployment that were far harder working.
Right.
Far harder working.
Right.
Than any employment that I had.
Right.
But no, but what do you do when the resentment has already occurred? Because I think that's the bigger problem here is that we passed beyond. I don't really think you do anything in your job to I resent. I resent you as a person. You disgust me.
Right. And I think the first thing you got to do there, and that is you got to stop. Take a look at them. And you need to both reset that calibration. And 2, I don't think you need to be coming home from work. No. Take your happy little butt to the gym. Take your happy little butt to the coffee shop. Take your happy little butt to the walk. Don't be bringing that stress that you're already burnt out on home.
So you're thinking this is more of a, you're having problems with your job, and then you're looking at this grass is greener, like your partner doesn't do anything and makes money.
Right.
And like,
right.
Okay. I can definitely see that being a contributing part.
Right.
I'm just curious, so do you start that conversation at like, I need you to sit here and literally, for the sake of our relationship, tell me what you do for a living.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm at a point that I resent you.
Right.
And maybe that has something to do with me and what I do for a living.
Mm-hmm.
But what I see is the following.
Mm-hmm.
And I need you to explain it to me like I'm a 5-year-old, that what I'm seeing isn't it.
Right.
Like there's more to it. Like I'm seeing a portion, there's like, it's the tip of the iceberg. There's a whole ocean full of things below that.
Right. Especially if he A, got a promotion, B, the amount of money he's getting paid. Companies don't do that. Like, so you gotta check your feelings at the logic zone and see where that's at. And then you need to be questioning if you want to stay in your industry, because nursing can go in multiple directions. If you ain't happy with your pay, if you ain't happy with your 3 to 4 days a week, 7 on, 3 on, 4 off, 12 hours a day, maybe you need to be questioning why you're looking and trying to justify your emotional feelings, and that's what you're doing.
Well, more importantly, I think you're taking it out on your boyfriend.
Right.
You're having a problem.
Right.
With the job that you have.
Right.
And that's fine. There's a lot of nurses and a lot of people in healthcare.
Right.
And over the last few years, this has been a lot. And like burnout is a nice vacation.
Right.
To where some people are happy.
Right.
Like it is rage-inducing, near homicidal anger and frustration at a system that is stressed out, maxed out, beyond its limits.
Right. And, we've got to see a change in our health. Like, we cannot keep maximizing our nurses and maximizing our other healthcare workers to the point of breakage.
Yeah.
That's why everyone's leaving the bedside.
Right. Well, because I've always struggled with how do you as a human being, and I get any human being can adjust to anything and you learn to adapt.
Right.
But I just can't process how for 12 hours with little to no breaks, little to no ability to just go to the bathroom, little to no ability to, eat, rest, take a break, anything.
Right.
You provide the most important services most people will ever experience in their life that literally can be life or death.
Right.
Or can induce life or death situations.
Right.
And do that for 12 hours.
Right.
Like again, I'm over here in IT, and the worst moments of my career have been like, I've worked for like 36 straight hours.
Right.
And I will tell you right now, somewhere around like hour 16, which I know is more than 12 hours, but I get it. But this isn't like my continual life pattern. Right. But about hour 16, I don't really care what the problem is anymore. I just want it to go away. Because I've lost the ability to care.
Well, and see, that's been a very big problem in the nursing community. Is most nurses, while it sounds like they're only working 3 12s, 3 on, 4 off, no, that's not how it works. That's not how it's implemented. That's not how it happens. Most nurses are pulling 60 to 70 hours a week. Your very high demand nurses in critical roles right now are hitting 120 hours a week.
And that's not an environment.
No, and our legislators keep continuing to back this behavior from corporate America. So yeah, that's okay. They keep using mind boss terms, and companies go, think of the patients. Every time a nurses union goes to strike, you start hearing, well, think of your patients. They are, because most of the reasons they're trying to strike is because they need time off. They need time to, things. And that's when nurses are leaving the floors. A lot of nurses have left the corporation, have gone to, fine, I'm going to go work agency.
Yeah. Fewer hours, better money, and
better money, better pay. I mean, and what's crazy is we have an industry that's willing to pay triple the amount of money for a temporary employee that they have to treat better than the ones they have.
Yeah.
That's insane to me. And yes, for 30, I did used to work for the unions.
Well, and it's one of those moments also where you sit there and go, funny thing, I wonder what would happen if you did that to your actual employees. What would that look like?
Right.
What do you think that would do?
Right.
Like how many mistakes and issues and problems would that get rid of if you like treated your actual employees the same as the people you're bringing in temporary? Like how much less would it cost you in wrongful death?
Right.
How much less would it cost you in malpractice? How much less would it cost you?
Right.
In all of these horrible lawsuits I'm sure you're facing daily.
Right.
How much less would it actually cost you? Because I don't think it's going to cost you more. I think it's going to be a profit savings.
Well, not only that, but
you'll profit from activity.
Giving the nurses the same freedoms they give the CEO. Realizing where their value and their work is at is important. Realizing that your traveling nurses choose the shifts, choose what they will accept and what they won't accept. They can refuse the schedule. They can take off when they choose, as long as it's within the agreement. But here's the other thing: there is a dirty word in healthcare, and it's called burnout. And guess what? There's a fucking forest fire there. It's not burnout.
Oh, yeah.
It's a damn forest fire. Medical care just came out of a fucking war. We have, and unfortunately, the only thing that it came out and learning from was that the companies will continue to use their employees as much as they can and call it an emergency.
And I think a lot of it is they're still looking for automation to come save them. If they throw enough money into R&D, some medical supply company is going to produce a perfect robot that can deliver meds, stick a thermometer up your butt, check your vitals, change your catheter, do all the things.
Right.
And we're just going to, like, nursing is going to be an automated machine.
And it can't be.
It's like, oh, we're a ways away.
Yeah.
Like there's some activities you can mechanize and turn into a robotics thing.
Yeah.
And then there's some things like I cannot imagine being in a state of coming off of, because I've had a couple of neck surgeries, I've had to come out of anesthesia a couple of times. If I'm having to deal with a robot in that situation, I'm already loopy. I really don't think you want to see how ugly this could get if I'm dealing with artificial intelligence and a mechanical arm. I'm not afraid.
Yeah, but there's some things that can be automated. I think that there's a lot of tasks that nurses aides especially has to do that needs to be automated. But then we have poor execution. A key example is when the lifts came into the nursing homes that were automated lifts that you could literally lift a patient up. The problem being is no one took a look at what the real weight of the patients were. So you have a lift designed for 350 pounds. You have patients at 420 pounds, and you're telling your aides you can't lift that patient.
Okay, neither can the machine.
Neither can the machine.
Like, so what would you like me to do?
Exactly. Or when the TheraBeds came in, and that was supposed to make things so much better because it was going to turn your patient automatically every 2 hours. That's great, except when your patient is self-moving.
And they move out of the zone.
Yep, very much so.
That doesn't do it.
All right, so let's go check out the poll. We've got some commentary about the poll.
Yeah. So, hey, Brenda, and someone is giving you shelter and feeding you. You abide by their house rules, plus offer to help around their household. It's not a hotel.
Exactly. And even at hotels, you have to abide by the rules.
Yeah, I was about to say, I don't think you could pull that off, like send the kid naked through the hotel lobby and down to the pool and run around the pool naked. I don't think many hotels are going to respond favorably.
No.
They're
All right. So, no, you are not the asshole.
Yay, not the asshole. Love it, love it, love it. So,
Okay.
all righty.
All right. Okay. So with that, guys, we've got a lot of things going on. First, we have coffee and tea, and that will be Thursday at 8 p.m. Then we have Mountain Bears at 8 p.m. And then, of course, Psychics the Plans. My planner is going to look differently. I've been putting some work into it. If you missed Psychics the Plans last week, I had kind of a little planner meltdown with the mood. So I've done a lot of Marie Clairing of my planner situations.
Marie Kondoing?
Yes.
Yes. Like, it doesn't bring me joy. Yeet.
Yep.
That is basically what happened.
Yes.
I will attest to it.
Yeah, I'm done with this. I'm not going to use this. I do want to keep this, and this is the reason I bought this. Example, I bought planners for their covers when they were on markdown. And it's like, well, I could do, and it's like, no, you ain't done it yet. Get it the hell out of here. So it got yeeted quickly. The trash man's not going to be happy with me. So be looking for that. Also, I am going to be doing a tarot summit at Earth Magic. And what are the dates on that, John?
That is the 8th, 9th, and 10th. So just a little more than a week away.
Right.
So you still have time to register for that. You can find all those details at earthmagicwb.com.
Yes.
Yes. So you can get all the details, but that is Tarot 101, Tarot 102, Shotgun Tarot, which is actually is on that Friday.
Right.
But Tarot 101, Tarot 102, and Psychic Scrying. All three classes, you can do a weekend pass for $150, which is $50 off the individual class price. And while he's there, you will have time on Saturday to book a in-person appointment with Aeson.
Right.
So yeah, check all that out. Set up your appointment. Pay for your classes. We look forward to seeing you guys there.
Yeah, and this is probably this is my first live class in a number of years.
In a minute.
Yeah, so I'm trying this new summit concept. I really like the idea because I can take someone totally new to tarot by Friday and have them ready to read on Sunday.
Exactly.
So with that, guys, we want to thank our Patreon.
Of course, we want to thank Beverly Walker, Mika G, Kathy, Mary Winfield, Brenda, Shannon C, Shannon D, Lady Gwendolyn, Charles Shaw, Tracy Van, Caitlin Bell, and Devin. If you'd like to learn more about us, the show, or how you too can become a Patreon sponsor and receive all the wonderful benefits our baristas receive, please visit us at pcspnetwork.com.
Yes, and this will get announced, but baristas, your station meeting will be on this Saturday?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. We've gone from last Wednesday of the month to first Saturday of the month.
So that it doesn't get so mixed in. Yeah. All right, guys. We will be seeing you later. Bye, y'all.
Bye.